Now here comes the reviewer's car, their parents' Buick, pulling into the driveway on the west side of the front yard of the house. Car slowly pulling into the driveway. Amazing timing, the reviewer will make a new episode of the 52-week movie challenge, following his first installment since following in May of 21, arriving almost exactly as scheduled at 1 p.m. in the editing room, so he can firstly go into the foyer, leading into the TV room, and then the kitchen to help himself to a grilled cheese sandwich on rye bread with American slices, eggplant parmesan, Thousand Island dressing, all of which give him fuel to work in the editing room. And the reviewer continues with this series by adapting from the book Everybody's a Critic, the 52-week movie challenge. He writes his observations and reactions from the films he's seen, as well as using his script as a map for the editing process. Opens Adobe Premiere Pro Cloud. Inspired reviewer. Focused. Ladies and gentlemen, David Napolitano will, in a moment, address the YouTube viewers with a review of a film that's based on a true story. The key to an effective film based on a true story comes from both capturing the essence of a subject while also validating it as a narrative film rather than a history more interesting than its filmmaking. By doing both authentic and artistic justice to the actual journalistic process, All the President's Men opens the floodgates to other films that would do further justice to journalism in film alongside network. Or should I say, open the Watergates.
Yeah, well, that's just like, your opinion, man.
All the President's Men is the 1976 political drama adapted from Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein's titular book about the Watergate scandal. The film stars Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman as these respective figures who work as reporters for the Washington Post. Woodward is a newcomer to the Post, while Bernstein is the old pro of the industry. The former is assigned to cover a break-in of the Watergate complex, and the latter also finds himself with the same assignment, leading the two to work together. While the assignment does seem to be an inconsequential job, they would go on to discover a shattering conspiracy that would lead to the resignation of then POTUS Richard Nixon not long after the dawn of his second term. All the President's Men is a patiently woven mystery of enthralling discoveries. On the surface of its 2-hour-plus runtime, director Alan J. Pakula presents the film as a clinical procedural drama, yet nothing could be further from the truth. As I went on to experience with such rapt intrigue, Pakula enhances screenwriter William Goldman's depiction of a sobering political conspiracy into an experience that does so much with so little. I'm not the most scholarly on American history, but even as someone with a general knowledge about the Watergate scandal, All the President's Men respectively rewards history buffs and cinephiles, myself as the latter, with a no-nonsense treatment of history and a boldly understated approach to the filmmaking. This is a film about what we don't see, rather than what's simply shown right in front of us on TV. A different film about this story with a more crowd-pleasing tone with easy answers to hard questions would ultimately reduce a complicated issue into preachy Oscar fodder. But All the President's Men honors the history of its political fallout with a restless mystery that constantly stimulated me with its twists and turns and left me on edge when the film withholds its secrets. What makes this such a keenly told story comes from why it makes for such a thrilling mystery. While I already know that Woodward and Bernstein would inevitably unravel the corruption scandal, it's how Goldman leads us there through his obsessive narrative, a perfect balance between expositing and withholding the clues. As satisfied as I felt watching Woodward and Bernstein find the clues to the conspiracy, I was even more enraptured when they would reach a dead end. That was a major test that All the President's Men had to pass, because purposefully withholding key information should make me want these characters to pursue the truth even more. The good news is that the film does so with flying colors. The main characters in the film are morally righteous to a simple degree, but their drive for the truth comes off as so infectious and even quietly inspiring. I'm glad that it does take its time, because that makes the accomplishment at the end even more rewarding. Even with the power of the script, All the President's Men is so much more than a production of stellar writing. It also beautifully translates its taut language within its economic presentation, especially from Gordon Willis's richly detailed camera work. Look at this scene where Woodward and Bernstein go through the receipts in the Library of Congress for research. This is also one of a handful of scenes where music is played. The characters are shot from a bird's eye view, while the camera slowly pans back from them, indicating the the immense passage of time until we see everyone else minding their own business at the library. What surprised me about this sequence, however, comes from where to the scene cuts, and that actually gave that sequence its entire meaning. It fades to what looks like a view of the White House from a distance, but as Woodward and Bernstein leave without results, it turns out to be a mere reflection on a glass door. Woodward and Bernstein still persevere in their search for the greater truth, even when the status quo, an inherent illusion, insists of the contrary. This sequence brilliantly gets across the frustrations and disciplines of painstaking journalism in mere images and music and editing better than how dialogue ever could. Even with something as simple as shots of them dashing through the offices of the Washington Post, where the camera pans through the set, gives it such a three-dimensional vibrancy. This further adds to the agency of a procedural yet gripping story. Speaking of dimensions, let's talk about the lighting of the film. Known for Willis's use of shadows in the Godfather films that merit his A-list The Prince of Darkness, it'd be a shame to overlook the immaculate lighting as seen in All the President's Men. While Willis brightly shoots the stunning recreation of the White Office of the Washington Post, he drapes scenes like Woodward's talks with Deep Throat in a blanket of shadows. Willis makes the Post out as the beacon of journalism, but places like the parking garage as the necessity of truth, finding such within the most secluded of corners imaginable. The film once again echoes its conflict of the status quo and journalistic integrity better than any written word. This whole video could actually be just about Willis's cinematography alone, because look at that split diopter shot. I mean, with the contrast with the people watching the TV and Woodward doing the investigations, look at it. I mean, look at it. It's just brilliant filmmaking. I mean, but that would require me to really get up on my soapbox. A major rule that I have with films based on a true story is that if a documentary ends up being more interesting than a narrative film of the same subject, then there's a good chance that I won't enjoy the latter that much. Even as a die-hard fan of Queen, a biographical drama like Bohemian Rhapsody, for example, comes off as so masturbatory over its subject that it totally skims on the emotional weight of Freddie Mercury's life. Plus, as a fellow bi guy, that bi erasure of him really didn't sit well with me.
I think to anyone struggling with theirs and trying to discover their voice, listen, we made a film about a gay man, an immigrant who lived his life just unapologetically himself.
A documentary like Won't You Be My Neighbor, however, does such a beautiful job of capturing the profoundly humanitarian legacy of Fred Rogers that you don't really need a drama to convey such, but I'll let you know how that turns out in a future review. Wink wink, nudge nudge. As with All the President's Men, it more than validates its form as a historical drama. Because the film captures the power of its history with such cut and dry honesty, with such a tightly written mystery, as well as featuring such rawly talented work from Redford and Hoffman, the film serves as both a timeless and timely portrait of the importance of a free press. So what did you think of All the President's Men? Have you seen it? Also, what's your favorite film based on a true story? My personal pick would have to be The Wolf of Wall Street. Martin Scorsese does such a masterful job of finding the cinematic appeal in the true stories he adapts that I immediately forget they're based on real events. With Wolf of Wall Street, Scorsese trades in the preconceived regality of the fact-based narrative with a hilariously damning critique against the inherent sins of capitalism, from greed to misogyny. If you liked what you've seen, then leave a comment down below, hit the like button, share this video, subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell so you'll know when I release my future videos. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at FilmGeekDave, as well as my Letterboxd account for all the other films I watch in my free time. That's all for today, and I'll see you next time when I review a film that turns 25.
You're in big trouble, though, pal. I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
You eat pieces of shit for breakfast?
No.